Good morning, YouTube family. Good evening or good afternoon, wherever you might be. Glad to have you guys coming on. Thank you for joining us. Hey, today I want to talk about something that happened this week, and I learned from it. So this is why I want to share it with you. And it's the topic for today's discussion, and it is that the narcissist and the new supply are crippled by their own lies. And I want to talk about that because I don't want you guys being crippled by your own lies, right? In fact, you don't want to be lying to yourself at all. You want to be honest with yourself. And that is a really hard thing to do, by the way. It takes humility to be honest with yourself. But we're going to explore what it looks like when a narcissist does it and when the new supply does it, but also when just regular people do it, because it is crippling to everybody when they lie to themselves and when they believe their own lies. So we're going to jump into that. I wanted to welcome you guys in. Welcome to Happy Crappy Hour. We're going to talk about how to fix some of the broken things in your life. And you guys, the reason I'm doing this channel is because I want to help people to see the truth. The truth is painful, all right? The truth is painful. And you may offend people with the truth, but sometimes they just need to hear it, right? And they may fight you on it because they don't want to know. They don't want to hear the truth. They want to believe the lie that they've been living for a long time, which is what the narcissist and the new supply do. They live in their fantasy world. They live within their lies. They want to tell themselves they've done nothing wrong. They want to tell themselves that they're, the best people that are out there. They want to believe the lies they've been telling to themselves because it makes them feel good. Lies actually make you feel good. And the lies that you tell to yourself, right? And that's why you hold on to it. And that's why they hold on to it. So when the narcissist believes that they're the smartest person in the room, they don't want to believe that other people could possibly have an opinion or perspective that could be right while theirs could be wrong. They want to believe that only their opinion, their perspective is the right one. And here's the deal, and especially if they're holding a grudge. You guys, grudges, lies, and lies go together. And gossip. There are three major things that go together that keeps the narcissist and the new supply within their destructive, crazy nightmare of a world. It's a nightmare to us, but they want to believe that it's a dream. Well, we're going to get started on that. Thank you for hopping on. Good to see you guys here. So one of the things that the narcissist does, or one of their characteristics, is that they're easily offended, all right? They are so easily offended that they will take offense. This is why you can't tell, I'm sorry, I'm trying to gather this. This is why you cannot tell them the truth. Because when you try to tell the narcissist the truth about something, or when you try to give them a perspective that goes against what they believed and shows that they were wrong, they're going to be offended. Because they cannot believe that they could be wrong. They cannot believe that somebody else, and especially you, right? And if they're not respecting you, and a lot of narcissists, a lot of times they don't respect other people. They only respect you if you have the exact same perspective they do. If you have the exact same opinion they do, then they respect you. But if you have an opposing opinion, they don't respect you. So even though you might be well educated, even though you might be well versed and experienced in whatever field, they are not going to trust you. They're not going to take your criticism or your comments or your instructions or your guidance because they believe they can do it better, right? They are so easily offended, though, if you tell them that what they believed isn't quite right. Like they'll even say things like, well, I don't really know the answer to that, but this is my guess. And then when you tell them, well, actually, I worked there, or I did this and I've already had that experience and this is what happens, they're going to be offended. I mean, there's no not offending a narcissist, you guys. So, what happens to the narcissist when they get offended? They start lying to themselves. They start making up stories about you, about how, in their heads, they start making up stories about you, about how ignorant you are, or maybe how critical you are, or maybe how rude you are to point out their mistake, right? Or how annoying you are that you would oppose their point of view, how unlikable you are, right? So they start lying to themselves, building this story about you because they have to shoot down the truth that you just told because it made them feel bad. The truth that you just told, even though you're not even aware of this, by the way, you are not even aware that this is going on in their head. You're just sitting there thinking you're having a conversation, you have some input on this topic, so you want to share what your experience or your knowledge about this topic is. Meanwhile, they're sitting there building up this narrative about you. And here's the deal. They will hold on to this lie to make themselves feel better. They'll hold on to the lie that you are somehow lesser than them, or even if you told the truth and they admit, like, okay, you were right, but it was the way you said it. They'll sit there and stew on that. It's the way you said it. So that makes you a bad person for having told the truth. And they'll distract from the truth. Now they're focused on your character or some mistake that you made, or not even a mistake, because to them it's like they heard a tone. It's like, what tone? I didn't use a tone. Oh, right there, that's a tone. You're like, oh my gosh, you cannot win in these discussions with a narcissist. And they're having this weird, crazy argument in their own heads. Anyway, so you're sitting there thinking you're having a discussion between two people, or maybe in a group of people, right? A group setting, and you're giving your input. The narcissist does not care for your input unless it backs up their input, it backs up their perspective. Now, what happens after you leave that conversation is that the narcissist perpetuates this lie. The narcissist will go on, and this is what I was saying from the beginning. Lies and gossip and grudges all go together. Now the narcissist is going to start telling people about your character that they made up in their heads. They took something you said, or a tone that you used, or just, they got offended because you didn't agree with everything they said. So now suddenly you're the bad guy because they're going to make up a story that it was your tone. Like, even if they have to admit, because they cannot hide, that what you said was true, right? So when they're retelling this story, gossiping about you to other people, they're going to say how the way you said it was so rude or disrespectful, or the look you gave them when you didn't even give them a look, right? You were just talking, thinking you're having a conversation. They're going to embellish this because it has to support their narrative. It has to make them look good. It has to bring you down so that other people, when they encounter you, will think you're the bad guy and the narcissist is the good guy. This is the psycho crazy town that the narcissist lives in. Now, they also bring the new supply in. If you've ever been with a narcissist for a period of time, you'll remember, and I'm sure you have had this experience, almost certainly, that, because I've had it several times with narcissists in my life, that I had no idea were narcissists to begin with, right? I thought they were just nice people, friendly people. They seemed pretty perceptive. They seemed pretty likable. And I thought they were just, pretty decent people. So when you think someone's a pretty decent person, you think, I can trust their judgment, right? I can trust what they tell me about other people. And not that you're wanting to get into gossip, but narcissists will slide in information about other people during your conversation. And you're like, whoa, what was that about? Right? Or they'll wrap it in a way that makes you think they're bringing a problem to you to solve with another person they're having this problem with. And really, what they want is sympathy from you. They just want you to agree with them that this other person's a jerk, right? They're not thinking that maybe they can learn from somebody else's perspective. Hey, this is the situation. This is what happened. In this situation, I went to talk to this person, and this is what they said, and this is how I felt. And, they're not interested in possibly being wrong. They're not interested in you telling them that maybe they took something the wrong way. They just want to tell you that they were offended and that you have to trust them that the other person was an offensive jerk. That's gossip, you guys. That's gossip. That's not about bringing something into a conversation to solve. That's not bringing something in so that you can fix it. And narcissists will continue to live in their lie, their fantasy world, where they're always right and where everybody else who disagrees with them or somehow didn't let them steamroll over them is a jerk, right? They come in, they're convinced they have to take control, they have to be in charge, they have to bulldoze everybody. And then when someone says, hey, maybe let other people talk, okay? Maybe somebody else has a perspective on this. Maybe somebody else in the group wants to put in, have some input. Then they're going to be very offended. They're going to then see you as an obstruction to them. This is the crazy, psycho, lying, world that they live in. And then they pull the new supply in with them. And that's you and me, okay? They pull us in because we're thinking, oh, but they're so nice. They took us out to lunch. We spent time together. We're part of the same social group. We've had dinner together, whatever it was, right? You did some activity with them in a group, or you were introduced to them by a really good friend that you trust. So you think you extend that trust onto this narcissist. And then when you're hanging out with the narcissist and they're giving you this perspective that they expect sympathy for, they're like, yeah, you should agree with them that the person they're talking about, so that's gossip to begin with, right? They're naming the person. You know who this person is. You're like, you can present to me a situation without naming the person. You don't have to name the person. If you're really interested in solving or getting somebody else's perspective on something, you do not need to name the person. If it's a person that the other, the person you're talking to knows, okay? They don't need to know the identity of the person you're having a problem with. And now it's the narcissist who's going to spin it in a way and embellish the story in a way to make you think that the other person they have a problem with is a total jerk. They do this to the new supply all the time. This is how they build up the hero story and the victim story and their perspective on how the hero story will be about how they overcame these incredible odds, and despite all these horrible, mean people in their way, they made it through because of their just wonderful character and how strong they are, right? Strong-minded they are, strong-willed. And you're like, wow, that's amazing, right? And then you look at the other people they just named and go, what jerks, to have hurt you in this way. And their victim story, same thing. They'll paint the other people who were in their life as total jerks and how they were victimized, disrespected, or insulted, or ignored, or whatever it was. Excuse me. How they were taken advantage of by these other people. And the new supply, like you and I, will commiserate. We're like, oh, that's terrible. Yeah, we understand. And that's exactly what the narcissist wants. But try this one day. See if the narcissist will accept a different perspective. Because when you start to ask questions like, oh, well, why would they say that to you? Or how did they say that to you? Do you think that maybe they might have, their goal was something else? They weren't really saying it to you, they were just stating a fact? Or, you cannot ask them questions, because if you ask them questions, even as innocently, because you just want to understand the situation, they're going to be offended. They're going to be offended that you did not immediately take their word, take their perspective, trust everything they were saying, every detail of it, down to the tone of voice and the look they were given and how rude the other person was being and how blatantly, disrespectful the other person was being. You have to agree, oh my gosh, you're right. They were so disrespectful. They were so rude to you. They shouldn't have said it that way. They should have looked at you, or they shouldn't have looked at you, whatever it was they're complaining about. They're going to expect that you stand by them, period. No questions asked. That to me is narcissistic, all right? That to me is just someone with an agenda who wants to badmouth someone else and wants sympathy and agreement. And now they have spread, and this is gossip, you guys, now they have spread information that's totally subjective, right, to their perspective and how they understood it. Now they're spreading that misinformation to other people, to you, and hoping that you will have a bad feeling or a bad perception of this person they were just complaining about. And then they walk away feeling great about themselves, right? Because their agenda is to smear this person and hurt this person because they took offense from that person. Here's the deal. If you question them, now you become the target. Now they're going to gossip about you and how disrespectful you were during this conversation and how your remark is now, your questions are now being interpreted by them to others as snide remarks, right? Now they're going to say how you were, you wouldn't let up, or you wouldn't accept their, no matter how many times they said it to you. It's like, yeah, but they said the same information over and over again. They just weren't answering your question. So anyway, you guys, I wanted to get into this because if you're doing this to yourself, you're going to hurt yourself. If you're not able to hear somebody else, like, if you're talking to somebody and you want to share with them the problem you're having, first of all, examine your goal here. Is your goal to actually figure out what happened? And if maybe you misinterpreted something, or maybe you missed some detail, or maybe there's a way to fix this. Or is your goal to just simply slander and hurt somebody? Is your goal simply to gossip and make sure that others turn against this person? If that is your goal, and you have to also look at, do I have evidence, right? I'm doing or noticing some things in my town with some public officials where I've watched state hearings, I've watched and listened to speeches and presentations, and I'm noticing contradictions, right? Not just noticing, like very blatant contradictions and pretty much outright lies. So, and these are all recorded, so it's not like my perspective, okay, you guys? So if you have evidence, if you have information that others can look up, then it's not you coming in and just to hurt this person's reputation. It's you telling other people, oh, well, last month this politician said or did that. And you can look it up, right? Just you look up their speech and whatever, the entire speech. Don't just get the little sound bites and the, out of place little snippets that the media loves to give us. Read the whole thing. Listen to the whole thing in context. Now, if you go to people with evidence like this and you go, this is what happened, we can look it up, there's a record of it, what the heck, right? Does this make sense to you? Is there something do you think there's something going on? Okay, that's one situation. But if you're just interested in getting sympathy, if you're just interested in getting somebody to commiserate with you and bash the other person, and it's all interaction, like uh, it's the way the person spoke to you, it's the look that they gave you, it's these things are up for interpretation. These things are subjective because some people have thicker skin than others. That's all there is to it, you guys. Some people are just more easily offended, and some people are just more robust or gregarious in their speech, and they're not trying to hurt anybody. They're just passionate or whatever it might be. Now, so examine what is your goal here when I'm bringing this to other people. Examine that. Is your goal just to get people to turn against this person? Or is your goal to enlighten them that some corruption is happening? Or is your goal to figure out, like, oh, I got into this situation with this person, and is there something that I could have done differently? Is there something I could have or should have said differently? And you're trying to solve this situation. Whatever your goal is, that's going to determine whether you're gossiping, lying, or being like the narcissist. And you don't want to be like that. We have had situations where, and I know you guys will have shared this too, situations where we're going along with the narcissist because we don't realize, first of all, that they're a narcissist, right? They're just a friend. And you're trusting everything they're saying, you're agreeing with them, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that person said that to you. That's a terrible thing. You didn't deserve this, that, whatever. You kind of, and there's a little bit of sympathy you want to give people. I can understand that. But you really don't want to perpetuate lies. You don't want to perpetuate the delusion they're living in because it will cripple them. They will not be able to move out of that. Now, that's for a normal person. Narcissists will just throw you aside or make you the target if you disagree with them. Normal people, if you disagree with them and you ask them a few questions just to clarify like what really happened so that you understand it better, normal people, if they start to get mad at you, they will keep themselves crippled. I mean, there's a chance that they can come out of it if they're willing to admit that you were right. But normal people sometimes are like narcissists, and our pride gets in the way, our ego gets in the way, and we're like, no, they were wrong, we were right, and that's all we're willing to hear. And I want to share this with you because I don't want you to get stuck there. I don't want you to cripple yourself. If you feel like people are turning against you, they have questions, you don't want to answer them, you just want them to believe everything that you're saying, stop for a second. Just stop for a second and see if maybe you should have handled it differently. Just maybe. And guess what? It's not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you to entertain that. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to debilitate you. It's not going to cripple you to entertain the possibility that maybe you misunderstood or mistook something, or that you might have said something that spurred that whatever reaction on, okay? Because if you can do that, you will have just freed yourself. You will have just humbled yourself to the point where the truth can now come in. Once the truth comes in, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize I took it that way. I didn't realize I was so easily offended. I didn't realize that that there was a possibility that this other person. Sorry, you guys, I'm trying to stop something.